7, cursive, lowercase b, k, f. These are the last 3 lowercase letters that you'll need to be learning before we move on to our cursive capital letters next week. As I've explained before, if you have your paper or your board straight forward, then you need to slightly slant it to the corner that you write on. If you write on the left, that one goes up. If you write on the right, that one goes up. Let's go ahead and begin. As we practiced with our last letters, L and H, we had a slope up to the top line, from the baseline to the top line, and then we crossed at the midline and then continued our letter. We're going to continue that with our letter B and K, the exact same thing. So we'll begin at the baseline. You're going to slope upward towards the top line, back loop, straight back down, crossing at the midline, come straight back down. Once you hit the baseline, you're going to make a U-turn, come straight up to the midline, and then make your end connector. That is your lowercase b. I really like that lowercase b. It's pretty. Okay, so baseline, again, slope up, backward loop, straight back down, U-turn, up, high connector. I will be showing you how the high connector connects with the letters next to it once we begin writing our words. Baseline, slope up, backward loop, straight back down, U-turn, up to the midline, and a high connector. Your turn. The next letter will be lowercase k in cursive. So we begin at the baseline, just as we did before, sloping upward towards the top line, backward loop, crossing at the midline, straight back down. You're going to go up to the midline. Don't go past it. You're going to make a little bit of a loop there, and then you're going to come straight back down for a kick. All right, so baseline, loop up, cross, straight up to the midline, make a little loop, and then you're going to come straight back down with a kick. Please don't make the habit of coming over and around and coming back down. It makes it look too much like an H, so we don't want that. Baseline, up to top line, loop, straight back down, go up, stay tucked inside there, loop around just a little bit, and then you're going to kick it back down. So your loop needs to be in between. Here's the midline, here's the baseline. So it's sort of like in between those 2 lines is where your loop needs to be. Not too big, not too tiny, and certainly not above the midline. Your turn. The last letter we'll be practicing today will be the lowercase f. So as we started our B and K, we sloped upward, we came backwards and looped backwards, and then we crossed at the midline. This is going to be a little bit different. So you begin at the baseline. You're going to slope upward, looks just the same, except now you're going to ignore crossing at the midline, coming straight back down to the descending space, looping forward, and then having an end connector. So this is your lowercase f. Again, you do not cross at the midline, you're going to cross below it. So here we go once again, a little bit wider, of a slope, straight back down, forward loop, and an end connector. The skinnier you make your F is always better, so try to make it as skinny as possible. Baseline, up, slope back, straight back down, forward loop, end connector. And of course I'll be showing you how to connect all of these letters with any letter that comes after it next. All right, your turn. So now let's practice writing words using the letters that we've practiced up above. The first word is going to be banker. So again, we want to write the lowercase b beginning at the baseline, slope up, come back, crossing at the midline, straight back down. Here's my end connector. Now, once I have my end connector, then I'm going to pretend like I'm coming from the baseline and make my A. Slope over and make my N. Now here I'm going to go into my K, keeping everything nice and tucked in. And then E, backward slope, R, to the midline, make a half smile, and tuck it in. That's the word banker. Let's try one more time. B, come into my A, straight up, one hump, two humps for the N, slope over and around, make room for my loop, for my K, trying to keep everything within a good distance between all the letters. Your turn. The next word will be 5. So that's F-I-V-E, beginning at the baseline. Remember, we need to loop all the way up to the top line. Ignore the midline and come straight back down. Make my forward loop. Here I go into my I. Now I'm going into my V. Remember, your V is sort of a loop around. And then it's a high connector. So I need to make room for my E. And come straight back down. Don't forget to go and dot your I. There's 5. Once again, baseline, up, straight down, forward loop. Here's my I. Going into my V, remember it has to loop around, come down, make a U-turn, high connector, make room for an E underneath the midline, and then I end it with a dot. Your turn. Our next word will be pocket. Of course, it begins with a P, and that's one of our tricky letters, but we will get it with practice. So, beginning at the baseline, slope up to the midline. You're going to come straight down to the descending space, backward loop, stay within that whole line and tuck it in there. Go over and around, make your P part. Then you're going to come down, go into the O. O is a high connector at the end. So then we're going to pretend like we started the baseline, go over and make your C. Now we need to loop up a little bit wide to come down and make our K. Loop in there, kick it down, backward loop for the E, straight down, straight up to the top line, straight down with a kick. And don't forget to cross your T. There's pocket. Here we go again. baseline, up, straight down, back loop, stay inside there, over and around, loop it around, hump over, make your O, high connector, so make room for your C, loop over and around, make room for the loop, small loop right there, E, come straight back down, straight up to make your T with an end connector, and then make a bow tie. Your turn. Our last word for this week will be frisky, frisky. Beginning at the baseline, sloping all the way up to the top line, ignoring the midline, coming straight back down. Make your forward loop down below. Now we're going into our R, towards the midline, half smile, scoop it in there. Now we go into our I, straight down. Here's our S, another difficult one for us sometimes. Make sure you have a point at the top. Now we're going into our K, loop around, come down, and then we have a Y. So straight up, U-turn, straight up, down below in descending space, forward loop, and ending it. Don't forget to dot your I once you're finished with the word. Frisky. Next word, F, R, E, S. Here's my K, loop, come down, and then my Y. I am very, very proud of all the work you've been doing. I see great improvement. And so now, next week, we will begin all of our cursive capital letters. And we'll be doing that rather quickly because you don't hardly use capital letters as much as you do lowercase letters. And then we'll be ready for our Valentine's Day letters. So, I will see you next week. Good luck.